All right, Chaffee, in this section, we're going to be talking about lessons learned and things like there's no substitute for action, consistency, remembering why you're doing what you're doing, the importance of the two things that are on each side of our head, some key takeaways, and where the goal is. So let's start in this lecture talking about uh, what there is no substitute for. And what is that?
Well, Scott, you already spilled the beans.
Well, if they read the title, they knew it.
That's right. There's no substitute for action. As a matter of fact, there's a famous quote out there that says that without action, nothing happens. I mean, you can read about how to do something all day long, and we appreciate and thank you for coming on and listening to these lessons and learning from us. And really, there's no substitute for action. If you want to learn how to network, if you want to learn how to go out there and meet and talk to people, talk about your business, talk about your life, talk about whatever it is, then the best thing for you to do is go out and do it. And so that's why when I was putting this course together and when I was learning about networking, I went out and I went and networked. I went and networked between 1 to 2 places every single night for the past, not the past 2 years, only for 2 years. That's what I did. I went networking like crazy so that I can learn everything I could about networking and really become a networking master. And it wasn't just me going out and doing it myself. It was me observing other people doing it as well, and then mimicking them and learning from them as well. And so there's really no substitute for action. And a final example about this is remember back in the day, if you have ever learned how to ride a bike. So imagine reading about how to learn how about riding a bike and thinking that you're an expert at it, right? And then you're going to go out there and what happens? You're going to fall, right? And so, you could read about how to ride a bike all day long. And until you actually get on a bike, there's no way that we can really tell you about the balance and the feel and the experience of riding a bike on written words or on a video. You just have to go out there, get on that bike, and then go and see what happens. Fall a couple times, get back up, and then go out again. So when you're going out to network and when you're learning about this process, you're going to get tongue-tied. You're going to mess up. You're going to say the wrong things, and that's okay. That's all good because that's how you learn. That's how you get out there, and that's how you get better. So there's no substitute for action. Of all these lessons, this is probably the most important one that we can tell you is just get out there and do it.
Absolutely. And what I would suggest is the very first action that you can do right now that's going to guarantee your success. So don't pause, but get ready. Pull out your calendar. If you have a calendar that's in the form of a book, like I do, great. If you have a calendar that's in the form of an Apple's or Google Calendar, like I do, get it out and then go and first of all, mark an hour where you're going to research the networking groups and go back to where we've talked about how to find the groups, where the groups are, what type of groups you want to be in. And then pick, 1 or 2 or 3 groups this coming week. Don't wait, because the longer you wait, our mind goes, well, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should wait and, finish this course, or maybe I should go and review the course. I mean, your mind is going to give you all sorts of reasons not to do what you want to do, because it's there to protect you, and it protects you from things that are new and strange. And all these people, like, they're strangers. Maybe they've got knives and guns and bows and arrows, and they're going to, yell at you and scream. And who knows what awful things our mind's going to conjure up subconsciously that's going to drive you not to do what you want to do. So get out your calendar, mark an hour to do your research. Once you've found 2 or 3 groups that you want to explore and find out more about, discover when their meetings are, go to your calendar, block off 2 hours before they start and an hour after, so you have lots of time to get there. You have time to go and participate in the meeting, and then you have time afterwards to network with the people after the meetings are over. Get to know them and decide if that's the meeting group that you want to join or not. But we talk about there's no substitute for action, and you know what? You can take action right now. Whoops, wrong one. Okay, so now we're going to do, that was lecture 12. I forgot to say it. Okay. All right, so we're ready for consistency?
Uh-huh.
All right, so this is lecture 13, consistency is the key.
3, 2, 1. So when you go to these events, the lessons that I've learned, or one of the main lessons that I've learned, other than the action one that we just talked about, is that consistency is critical. Consistency is key to your success. And when I talk about consistency, I'm actually going to break this down into 3 things that you want to be consistent with. So the first thing is you want to have a consistent message and brand. So when you talk about your business or your service or your product or whatever it is that you're consistent for each networking event you go to, or for the one that you go to repeatedly, and for everybody you talk to, because you don't want to be going out there as somebody that doesn't know what you're talking about, or people don't understand what your product or service is because you tell them a different thing each and every time, right? So it's like you're a different person going out to network every single time. When you have a consistent product, a consistent brand, a consistent message, people get it, right? It sinks in. And the statistic or the quote says that you have to hear or see something 7 times before it sinks in. And if you're not seeing and hearing something repeatedly, then it doesn't sink in. It doesn't really affect people. And so if you're going out there saying a different thing each and every single time, no one's ever going to get your message because they haven't heard it multiple times. It's something different every time. They're going to get confused. And so you got to be consistent with your brand and your message. The second thing that you want to be consistent about is showing up. People like consistency. People like people they can trust to show up to these events so that they know that you're going to be there. If you're just sporadic and they don't know if you're showing up or not, then they don't know if that's going to happen in business either. And one of my mentors always said, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So that's a writer downer. If you haven't written that one down, it's how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so if you're sketchy or skippy on what you show up to, then that's going to show up in everything else in your life as well. If you're consistent showing up every single week or every single meeting for that group or for that networking event, then people know, hey, they're going to be there next week, or they're going to be there. And that's what I like, because I know they're going to be consistent. I know they're going to show up. Okay. So being consistent in your show up rate is critical for your success as well. And then third and final, I think this is probably the most important thing for this consistency lesson, which is being your one true authentic self and being consistent with that. Who are you truly? Who are you really as a person, as an individual? And are you bringing that person to this networking event, or are you somebody completely different every single time you show up? I mean, when you show up and you're this crazy, wacky person one week, and then you're this somber, quiet person another week, people just don't really know who you are. They are unable to relate to you and your personality type. And so when you're the consistent, true person every single time you show up, along with a consistent message, a consistent brand, and you're consistent in showing up, that's what people look for. That's what people want to work with, and that's what people can relate with.
Yeah, those are really, really good points, Chaffee. And you reminded me of when I was sort of starting my speaking career, which was pretty close to 20 years ago. And the company hired a speaking coach. And I was so worried that he was just going to turn me into something else. And the first thing he said was, Scott, all I want to do is make you even more authentic than you are. I want to pull more of who you are out, express more of who you are. And when you were talking about authenticity and being consistent in who you are, that's what it meant for me. Is you want to be able to connect with people on lots of different levels, because we like to do business with people that we like, that we know, and that we trust. So when you're behaving in ways that are likable, that are trustworthy, uh, you're 99% of the way there, and most of us do that. The other thing that was really interesting about consistency is when I started, it was like I had to introduce myself, and it's not, Scott Patton is not enough. You have to have a tagline when you're branding yourself, right? So mine was the Dean of Blogonomics and Podology, because I was teaching people how to podcast and how to blog. And 20 years ago, no one had heard of podcasting, and very few people had heard about blogging. And so for 20 years, I'm saying that. So now I'm traveling the world. I'm doing this recording as we speak in Medellin, Colombia. And I've thought, for the purposes of when I'm speaking and I'm not teaching blogging and podcasting, what is my brand? And I came up with the Elder Nomad, because I have all this wisdom. I have all 20 years of knowledge about being online and blah, 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 blah. But it's not sticking, because my consistent message for 20 years has been, I'm the Dean of Blogonomics and Podology. So these two things are like fighting each other. And as I'm listening to you, Chaffee, I thought, you know what? The Elder Nomad is, it's kind of cool. It's nice. I like it, but it's not authentically who I am, right? Because I'm really, the dean to me is someone who is one of the, is the leader of the department at the university. And I really feel like I'm one of the leaders in the department of podcasting in terms of the world. And there's lots of people that have done way more with podcasting than I have. So, but I'm going to stick with that, because I took it 20 years ago, and it's become part of who I am. And it feels more authentic to say that. So as you're looking at how you're going to present yourself, think about, like, who are you? Like, who are you? What are your values? What does it really mean? And see if you can't compress that down into a 10, 20, 30-second statement. And so when you introduce yourself, it's like, hi, I'm Scott Patton. I teach, I don't know who you are, but if I did, let's pretend you're a dentist. I teach dentists just like you to understand how to use podcasting to save yourself a lot of time when it comes to educating your patients about all the different procedures that you do. And they'll go, wow, really? What? Tell me some more. So you want to be able to be consistent in your message, and you also want to be able to massage it for your specific audience, right? And because if you were a dentist and I said, well, I teach roofers how to understand how they can use podcasting to grow their business, you're going to be going, well, I have no relationship with roofers. This guy's got no connection with me, right? So you want to make sure whatever you do connects. And the whole point of this consistency actually is going to be becoming more clear in a couple lectures from now.
Okay. Well, he ended it.
Or do you want to jump in?
I was going to, only you ended it, so I'm okay.
All right. So, and this could be part of remember why you're networking.
Got a plan.
Lecture 14, remember why you're networking. So in this lecture, we're going to talk about memory. And at my age, oftentimes my memory fails. So, Chaffee, why are we doing this?
Well, Scott, you are the Elder Nomad, so I'm just kidding. So the lesson learned here is you got to remember why you're networking. Why are you actually spending the time, the energy, the resources to be at this networking event? And when you keep that always in the back of your mind, you're not going to get bogged down, and you're not going to get stuck talking to the same person for the entire hour of the networking event. Because I've seen it happen. I've experienced part of it before I was able to break away. And remember, you're there to meet people and build relationships, and more than just one person. Okay? So if you're going to spend an hour or half an hour with one person, the best thing to do is either get their information. Well, that's the best thing to do, or give them your information if you're not really sure if you want to meet with them or not, and schedule a meeting, a follow-up meeting after the event, right? You're there for the purpose of building relationships and getting potential clients or clients that they might know that they'll refer to you for your business. And so keep that in the back of your head. Go there with the purpose of the consistent brand and message. Go there with the networking purpose of meeting as many people as you can, while not blowing them off and just passing out business cards so you're just a flashing memory, right? You want to leave an impression and get as many business cards and pass as many business cards as possible and really get to know those people so that you can schedule follow-up meetings where the gold really happens. Okay, so again, remember why you're there, and also, as Scott said, get that calendar out and set aside some time to plan out that meeting. If you know what kind of meeting it is, you know what kind of networking time that you have, how much time you have, and that you can practice everything ahead of time so that when you get there, you're prepared for that particular meeting. So again, remember why you're there, remember why you're networking, and go there with a purpose to maximize the time at that event. Everything else happens outside of the event, only maximize your time at the event itself.
Good. Okay, lecture 15 is listen.
Okay. All righty.
5, 4, 3.
So this is one of the important lessons I've learned as well. Obviously, these are all important lessons, and that's why I'm sharing them with you. And listen up. You want to make sure that you get this lesson right. And the lesson is listen, right? When you're talking to people at a networking event, you want to listen to what they say. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a networking event where all people do is talk and talk about themselves in particular, right? People love to talk about themselves. They love to hear their own voice for some reason, right? And so when you attend these events, you want to listen to what they're saying so that you can pick out key points and then go down a path that you want them to go down. You can lead them down to a path of talking about business instead of just anything that happened to them in their life in the past, week or the past couple days, right? And so listen to what they say. More importantly, listen for key items, key points that you can relate to them with, and so that you can have a conversation so that they can start talking to you and about your business and asking you questions versus just talking about anything and everything. I can't tell you, this has happened many times. And I remember one time in particular where I actually went to a networking event and I introduced myself. And then for the next 30 minutes, all that person did was talk about themselves, like talk about what they did and their business and their life and some of the challenges and yada, yada, yada. And all I did was listen, right? And I was doing that on purpose because I wanted to see where it went. And for 30 minutes, all they did was talk about themselves. And when we were done, remember, all I did was, introduce myself and ask them what they did. For the next 30 minutes, they talked about themselves. And when we were done, they actually went up to me and said, that was the best conversation I've had in a long time. And it wasn't really a conversation. All they did was talk about themselves, right? People love to talk about themselves. And so make sure you listen, and make sure that you listen for key points where you can actually interject and direct the conversation in the path that you want it to go, so that you can build that relationship, build that connection point, so that you've made an impression, and then you can move on to that next person. Okay, so listening is key. Don't go to a networking event and just talk about yourself and your business and everything you do and how great you are and how great your business is, how great your product is, blah, 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 because people are going to tune you out, right? Go there with a purpose. Go there with the point of finding points and connections, and listen to what people say so that you can relate to them, build that rapport, right? And then move on to that next person. listening is key.
Yeah, and I'd like to just add to that that he who listens the most wins, because you end up having the most information and you're able to do things which again cause people to like you more, trust you more, and want to do business with you more. And as you were talking, Chaffee, you reminded me of one of my old friends who was a salesman in the grocery industry. And he told me about a time that he went to see the buyer, and it was the company that I was managing grocery stores for. And he presented this new product and everything else, and they talked about it. And when he was sort of done, he just sat back and he was quiet. And 10 minutes went by. And he says, I knew if I opened my mouth, I was going to get a no. So he said, I kept quiet. I kept quiet. I bit my tongue. I kept quiet. And finally, the buyer, and they've known each other for years and years and years, leans forward and says, all right, you outweighted me. I guess I'm buying it all. And he placed, a container full of, so we so often talk ourselves out of the sale. We so often talk ourselves out of the relationship. So if you're talking too much and you're not, in the beginning, you may have made a great impression on the person you're talking to, and they think, wow, like this is somebody I really want to, do business with. But by the time you've gone on for 20 minutes, they're like, oh my God, if I'm going to be in a relationship and it's going to be like this, forget it. I don't want to have that much to do with this guy or gal. So you really want to be aware of, like Chaffee was saying, you want to be actively listening, because they're going to give you gold nuggets that you're going to be able to use to develop a stronger relationship with that person. And it's not just about getting help for yourself. It's also about you helping them. So when you understand some of their needs, some of their problems, and you call them up a couple of days later and say, you were telling me about blah, blah, blah. And they go, yeah, well, I have a friend who might be able to really help you with that. Would you like me to introduce you? And then you send off an email or a messenger, or text, or whatever it is, introducing the two people. And you've now created some gold in that emotional bank account with that person, and they're going to be looking to reciprocate with you.
Awesome.
All right, and that was lecture 15. So now we're going to do lecture 16, no business is okay. 5, 4, 3.
So in this lesson, we're going to talk about the word no, because no is okay when you go to these networking events. And what I mean no is okay, I mean no business is okay, which doesn't mean that no business is not okay. It just means that you getting no business is okay. So let me clarify. In the previous lessons, I said you're there to get business. And in reality, you're there to build relationships to get business. And if you don't get business when you go networking at that particular networking event, that's okay. Because again, how many relationships did you build that will eventually lead to business down the road? And that's what's key. And you got to understand that people don't know you when you go to these networking events, or you're there to meet people, and people like to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And they don't know, like, nor trust you because they don't know who you are. They don't know what you do. They don't know anything about you because they just met you. And so if you're there hawking your product or hawking your service or hawking your business, there's a good chance you're not going to get that business. And that's okay, because your purpose, if you're doing it properly, is to build a relationship so that eventually they'll get to know, like, and trust you, and then either give you business or refer business to you from somebody else. And so again, I've been to many networking events where all people do is pass out business cards, and their goal is, how many business cards can I pass out? And they're more than happy to refer people to you, people that they just met at a networking event that they just attended a day ago or 2 days ago. And that's not the way to do networking, because you're now referring people who might not have a good product, who might not have a good service, who might not have a good reputation, and you just are giving out names to people because you think that's what they're looking for. understand when you're at networking events, you may not get business, and that's perfectly okay. The real question is, how many relationships can you build by attending that event? And remember, the relationships actually occur after the event. So you just want to get enough, make enough of an impression that they remember you, so that when you schedule that follow-up meeting with them, then you could really have that conversation. Then you could really start building that relationship. So no business, or getting no business at the networking event that you are currently attending is okay. And don't be upset. Don't go home and think, oh man, I met all these people, only I didn't get any business. No one signed up for my product, or no one signed up for my service. Well, that's perfectly all right, because remember, you have a purpose for going there, and that purpose is to maximize your time to meet as many people as possible, build those relationships so that you can follow up with them and build this referral network of business that's going to come to you year after year after year after year.
Yeah, Chaffee, as you were talking, I was thinking, do you want to have an ounce of gold, or do you want to have a ton of fool's gold? Which leads us into our next lecture. The gold is in the follow-up. All right, lecture 17, the gold is in the follow-up. 5, 4, 3.
So the next lesson is the gold is in the follow-up. And if you've been listening, which is one of our lessons, you probably have heard me say this over and over and over again, which is the real relationships happen after the event, right? And so you're there to meet people, make an impression, get some information, exchange your information with them, and then schedule that follow-up meeting, because that follow-up meeting is really where things happen. That's really where you can sit down in a comfortable situation and get to know that other person, get to know what their business is, and follow up with them. Now, when I say that, understand that these follow-up meetings shouldn't be more than half an hour, because you're getting to know that person to see if you want to do business with them down the road. And if you do, then there's another follow-up meeting after that follow-up meeting. So let me break this down for you. You're going to go to a networking meeting with the purpose of exchanging information and leaving an impression of somebody else. Then you're going to schedule a short follow-up meeting with them. And sometimes it could be a phone call, and I prefer to do it in person, because there's so much more that I can learn when I'm in front of somebody versus on a phone with somebody. And so I like to schedule a 20 to 30 minute follow-up with them, sit down and have a cup of coffee, or water or soda or whatever it is that you drink. And then in that 20, 30 minutes, I really get to know them as a person, as a business, to see if I want to further build a relationship with them. And if I do, then I'm going to either schedule another follow-up with them, or I'll get to know them over time, because we're going to continue to go to the same events over and over again. And what I found is that the business that I receive, all of my business is referral based, and all of my business that come from referrals are from people that I've networked with time and time again, over and over again. I've seen them at multiple different events, and they've gotten to know me, and I've gotten to know them through that follow-up process. And so the follow-up is the gold. Remember, it's okay not to get business at the event, because the true relationships are built in the follow-up process. And so if you don't have a follow-up process in mind, if you're just going to network and pass out a bunch of business cards, understand your conversion rate of getting business is going to go from way up here to way down here. Sure, you might get some business, and the bulk of your business is going to be in the follow-up process. So the follow-up is the key. Make sure you schedule time and follow up with people so that you really build those relationships in the long term.
And if you're following up, you're absolutely, well, if you follow up consistently, you're absolutely changing the way people are going to be looking at you, because Chaffee, in your experience, how many people actually do a follow-up?
There's actually very few people that follow up. So most people, like I said, just go to the events and pass out business cards. And so you'll definitely be a standout, and you'll find that if you do this on a consistent basis, remember I said consistency is key. And so one of the things that I used to do was always schedule a coffee meet and greet on a particular day. So for example, I do Wednesday lunches, right? Before that, I was doing coffee Monday. So every Monday, I would hold a coffee meet and greet where everybody that I networked during the prior week was invited to the coffee meet and greet. And I'd usually have 3 or 4 people at every single coffee meet and greet that we would meet and drink coffee for 30 to 40 minutes and get to know people in a small group as a follow up. And so that's a great way of getting a follow up people to get to know you. And you stand out, people start asking you if they can start attending your coffee meet and greet because they know they've heard it from other people of, oh, you should go to his coffee meetup, you should go to his coffee group. And so what happens then is that all the people you meet start recognizing you as a player, as somebody that's networking, as somebody that's consistent in their business, and start wanting to show up to your events. And then you become the expert in that industry. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. You start standing out because, as you said, Scott, not many people do the follow up. Not many people actually call up afterwards or send an email or schedule a meeting afterwards. And if you're the person that does that, you'll be standing out. I can't hear you, Scott.
And in sales, they always say it takes 7 touches before you're going to make a sale. So you've got, if you think you're going to go to one meeting and get a whole bunch of people excited about your product and want to do business with you, that's not going to happen. The reason is 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times when you meet somebody, they get a better and better and better feeling for who you are. They like you, they trust you, they want to do business with you. And that's how that whole process works. And if you're going to commit to networking as a way to grow your business, you have to commit to the whole thing, which is not just deciding what groups, not just showing up consistently, but also afterwards identifying people that you think would be your ideal client and or know people who would be your ideal client. Because one of the things that we really want to emphasize is the easiest way to make sales is, Chaffee, do you know somebody who would really benefit from having a podcast? And Chaffee goes, yeah, I know a couple people that have been talking about it. Awesome. Well, if they really need some help, let me know and I'll be happy to help them out, or whatever, however the conversation goes. So you don't want to just be looking at these people as cash registers or wallets where you're going to be plucking a bunch of money out. You also want to look at them as people people who have a large, they probably, because they're going to networks, they have a larger than normal area of influence. Most people know about 200 people, but I think people who go to networking events and entrepreneurs would probably know 500 to 1,000 people. I think that there's probably, in my case, I think I could easily email or call 1,000 people and they would take my call because they know who I am. And even if we haven't talked a lot in the last year, there's still interaction that goes on. So that's the way you need to look at these people. It's not just, hey, hopefully I can get this person to be my dental client, or I can put a roof on their house or whatever. It's, they know people who have teeth and they know people who live places that have roofs. So you want to take advantage of that networking, and they're not going to put at risk their friendships and their relationships with somebody they don't know, with someone they don't trust, and with someone they don't like. So that's why what we're talking about is so important, and that's why there's gold. You have to treat them all like gold, and you're going to be on your way.
And Scott, as you were talking, this probably should be a separate lesson learned. And I'm just going to throw it in here because it does flow into here, and you triggered it as you were talking, which is, don't be afraid to ask for referrals in your follow-up process and your networking process. As you get to know people, referral business is the best kind of business out there because you've already built a trust-based system. People all things being the same, somebody that's referred versus somebody they found on the internet, they're going to always go, or they're going to mostly go with the person that was referred to them. So don't be afraid as you're building these networks, as you're following up with people and sitting down and getting to know them, to ask for referrals, right? Ask for your ideal client, as you said, know who that client is, and ask for that person after you've met with them and built a relationship with them. So follow up is the gold is in the follow up, excuse me, and don't be afraid to ask for referrals.
Good. So now we're on to lecture 18, which is next steps, which is basically congratulations, you finished. And what you've learned in this course is, whether you are high on drugs or whether bigger is not always better and bad.
So this is a kind of a summary, right?
Yeah. And usually what we tell people is go back and review. You can review the entire course or go back and review some of the lectures that really stood out for you so that you make sure that you get it. And then take action. Do what we said. All right. So this is lecture 18. Next steps. 5, 4, 3. Oops. Sorry. I hit the wrong button and kicked you out. Okay, this is lecture 18, next steps. 5, 4, 3.
So next steps, what should you do next? Well, first and foremost, go through the course again. I know you just went through it, and there was a lot of information in this course. And go through and review your notes, go through again and just skim through the key points that you took down and add to it so that you know everything that happened. In this course, we covered pretty much everything and anything else about networking that you can think of, other than the group types and the group formats, which were in different courses. We've covered, again, about membership, about how much things cost and what's the benefit of those costs, about different lessons learned, about taking action, about following up, about a whole bunch of things. And so make sure you go back, go through the course, take good notes again so that it sinks into your head, and go out there and take massive action. If you want massive results, you got to take massive action. And that starts, as Scott said, by pulling out a calendar, looking and seeing what's available, looking at different meetup groups or meeting groups or networking groups, and then going out there, scheduling the time before and after to get there, attend the event, and stay there to meet people, talk with people, and then follow up with them afterwards. That's all part of the networking process. And so networking just isn't showing up to an event and saying, hey, I'm here, right? It's actually, there's a lot of planning ahead of time that goes in before and after the event if you want to maximize the time that you spend at the event. So again, go through the notes again, go through the lessons again, take good notes, and then go out and start networking, and then follow up, follow up, follow up. Doing that, following the system, the process, the lessons learned, everything that you've learned in these courses and this lesson, then you're going to maximize your time. And that's how you optimize your business and grow your business, by becoming that person that everybody wants to know. Be consistent with your message, be consistent with your show up rate, be consistent and true with who you are, and you'll watch your business explode.
Yeah. So congratulations. We're coming to the end of the course. Well done. As Chaffee said, review. Also, usually it's down here, but sometimes it's who knows where it is. There's a button where it's the Q&A if you've got questions. So we really recommend that once you've gone out to a few networking events, what were your insights? What did you take away from it? What did you think went well? What did you think you could improve on? And there are going to be places where you might feel a little stuck. I'm really not sure how I should have handled this situation, or I'm not sure about whatever it happens to be that you're talking about. Then use a Q&A and ask us, because this is an interactive course. Chaffee and I are here for you long term. consistently. We want you to trust us, to like us, to get to know us, so that you can refer more people to this course, if nothing else. And we want to prove that it's worth what you paid for it. You're getting a lot of value for your money. So don't hesitate to ask a question. And also, when you go to an event, let's say you go to an event and it works out amazing, it's terrific, you are so happy, share it with us too, because this will inspire your fellow students, and let us know what went right, what you were excited about, what happened. And remember that, you know, there's going to be thousands and tens of thousands of students in this course, and you're going to be able to support those students as well. And that's really, really important. So thank you very much for taking this course. And we're going to be showing you in the next lecture how you can help your fellow students. And also, we've got a special bonus coming up after that. So thanks for being our student. Thanks for getting all the way to the end. And we'll see you in lecture 20. So hard to know how to end sometimes. So lecture 19 is text, just shows them how to fill out the review. Lecture 20 is the bonus. Do we have a bonus?
I don't think so.
Normally we say if you want to get some coaching from Chaffee, go here and do that.
Oh, perfect. Oh, you got to go though, don't you?
Well, the person hasn't Skyped me, so let's record this.
Okay. Where's my recording?
What to do? Okay, you've taken the course. If you need some hand holding or you need some one-on-one time, or how can you help them?
Okay.
Do you even want to do that?
Well, I can. It's just I'm wondering if it's redundant because you said ask questions on the course.
Right. This is if they want to become coaching clients.
Oh. Yeah. Hold on a second.
I'll tell you what. Why don't you think about that? I'm going to end the broadcast.
Okay.
And think about